we all need a little time with our thoughts. Give folks some time, and you may find they're ready to share more of their story. Everyone likes to be seen and heard on their own terms. You're not alone out there. We're all traveling together tonight. Sometimes all we need is for someone to share their story or offer a different point of view.
This is Radio 90, and you're listening to Night Drive. Thanks for joining us tonight. Trace back through the turns and straightaways that led to a seemingly random encounter, and they begin to feel like dominoes lined up and ready for fate to fall into place.
And there were millions of such stories. Crucial moments on a path that led to you. Here, now. You are the product of incredible survivorship.
Look at the night sky. What do you see out there? More than 7 billion people on this world. And all we have is each other. Our own little infinity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sights and sounds of Glitchhikers. To our audience, feel free to ask questions at any time. We can see the chat. We'll try to answer them as we see them. My name is Clara Cyron. I am the co-founder and creative director at Silverstring Media. I wore many hats on this project and did a little bit of everything. We will get to that a little bit later, but here joining me is the lovely Devin Vibert as well.
Hi there. I'm Devin Vibert. I'm the music lead for Glitchhikers and for Glitchhikers in Space in Between. And I am super excited to be here. You know what? Just before we really get into things, for the uninitiated among us, I thought maybe, Claire, do you want to just give us the elevator pitch for Glitchhikers?
Absolutely. So, what is Glitchhikers? Glitchhikers, the spaces between, is about the thoughts that you have when your mind is free to wander. In this game, you take a late-night journey through surreal, low-poly landscapes, strike up conversations with a cast of 18 curious characters, and vibe to a huge soundtrack full of chill tunes across many genres. The kind of concept for this game began in 2014 as a much smaller experimental game that we're calling Glitchhikers First Drive. It just featured driving and a much smaller cast of only about 5 characters, but it still really resonated with folks, even though it was quite a short game. And more than any of our other early works, it's the one that people were mentioning to us years later. But that's not the only reason that we decided to make Glitchhikers, the spaces between. We knew we wanted to expand this game for a long time. We knew we had a lot more that we wanted to say and explore. And more than anything else, we wanted to extend the formula to a much wider array of spaces and to make it more welcoming and more representative and inclusive for the many different ways there are to travel and to wonder what is beyond the stars and what meaning they might hold. If you're curious about more in-depth stories behind the original dev team and how we got from there to here, we have a fireside chat video on our socials that has a lot more of the story behind it. But yeah, we've got a lot to show you today, so I figure let's go ahead and get the footage started, and we will show you not kind of back and forth slideshow of the first drive and the updated graphics, but the real deal playing for you right now. Devin, would you mind telling us what, in your opinion, makes Glitchhikers special?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about why it's special to me, maybe. And so I guess if you know anything about Glitchhikers, you know that there is a driving element to it, and driving or the act of traveling in general, for myself, has always been a little bit therapeutic. Late night drives even more so. And so Glitchhikers, Glitchhikers, we're really just striving to recreate some of those experiences. I can tell you that like over like 2 years of on and off isolation and COVID lockdowns and things like that, I feel I have both a pent-up desire and a real opportunity to explore some of those kind of moments, like the late night drive moments. Not just because we literally haven't been traveling anywhere for the last few years, but also because we're really living in a time where the future and even the present is like incredibly hazy and indistinct. One might even say we're living in a moment of liminality, if I dare to use that term. And actually, maybe on that topic, Clarice, you wouldn't mind just really quick talking about what liminality means in the context of Glitchhikers?
Absolutely, would love to. Liminality or liminal spaces, these might be terms that you and our audience have heard before. The basic concept comes from anthropology and specifically the study of human ritual. It kind of describes an uncanny in-betweenness, or being in the middle of a transformation, or even kind of in the middle of a journey. The kind of typical example is a young person who is about to embark on a rite of passage. They go out during this ritual, whatever it is, and when they leave, they are a young adult or a child, and when they return, they are a full-grown adult. But what are they during this rite of passage? Are they both? Are they neither? Are they a mix? That kind of question, that sense of your identity and your experience kind of being up in the air and in flux is liminality. But it goes much further beyond just rituals and anthropology. It's something that is really kind of expanded in terms of people talking about it. And I think it really captures a lot about how we're all spending so much of our lives in transit. I really like what you said just a second ago, Devin, about how the present and the past and the future are all incredibly hazy and indistinct at this moment. That sense of flux, that sense of being in between, of becoming, is liminality. And this all might seem very intellectual and academic, but the Spaces and Glitchhikers are a invitation and a reminder to everyone that we are constantly surrounded by moments where transformation is possible. And these kinds of questions go far beyond the academy and really belong to everyone who has ever looked at the stars in wonderment.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of everyone, we very much, from the get-go, wanted to design this game, Glitchhikers: The Spaces Between, with accessibility in mind. And that goes beyond making the concepts approachable. We've employed a number of customization options in the game that better allow differently abled people to access the experience. And we had the invaluable assistance of the Able Gamers Charity Player Panel Program for this, and those folks were just an absolute pleasure to work with, and they helped us make some very important and meaningful adjustments to the game to make sure that it was accessible to as many folks as possible.
Absolutely. So now is probably the time when we should be talking a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen right now while you've been listening to us talk and watching along. This is the highway. It's one of 4 main journey modes in the game. This mode appeals to the kind of semi-meditative highway hypnosis state that people experience when they're taking long drives late at night, watching that road wind through different biomes. Speaking of biomes, we've got 5 really wonderful, diverse ones in this game. We've got Badlands, Forest, Desert, Mountains, and Plains. And you'll be seeing a lot of those roll by as we continue to show this footage of the highway mode. In this mode, our characters that we pick up, our hikers, will often want to talk about life and death and our place in the universe. Every single mode has a different kind of theme to it, and although there's a lot of diversity in terms of the content, the characters you're going to meet, and what they're going to talk about, there is some similarities, and each mode has its own vibe that we'll be talking a lot more about throughout the hour. Here in our car, players can listen to an omnipresent radio host who speaks directly into their ear and serves up an intriguing mixture of groovy jams and experimental ambient musics. And also, as you can see, we can talk to strange characters that we pick up on the roadside. This mode is the closest to the original Glitchhikers First Drive, though it features more than twice the biomes and so much more road.
It's like an insane amount of road. You have no idea how much road there is in this game. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. Seriously, each of the game's biomes has a lot of variety, so you'll see many different mountain vistas every time you're in the mountain biome, and there's more mesas than you can shake a stick at in the Badlands biome. There are also two other types of driving modes that I would be remiss to not mention. One is the classic mode, and it's for folks who are feeling nostalgic or maybe curious for the content of First Drive. You don't have to play that game to get something out of this one, but also if you're curious or want to, you can play First Drive right inside this game. You'll be able to get the original content from the original experiment with the updated graphics and the new music. And finally, we have the Infinite Drive, which features special musical guests that will be announcing more of the lineup soon, but that was really exciting to work on. And generally, y'all should be checking our socials every Monday going forward from now until launch, because we'll be releasing new musical tidbits, songs, playlists, and a whole bunch of other cool, exciting stuff every single Monday.
Yeah, and speaking of music, I should mention I am the musical lead for Glitchhikers, but the soundtrack was a collaboration between Claris and myself, as well as some of those special guest artists. And of course, we had lots of amazing technical expertise given to us from the audio wizards at A Shell in the Pit. And yeah, I should mention that all of the music that you're hearing in our stream today is from the game. But it's not necessarily what's being displayed on the radio, just because we wanted to make sure that we had a nice lyric-free kind of selection of music for our chat today. However, we will be specifically playing some music, playing a song from the highway journey a bit later on, and we'll call your attention to that when we get there. So the only other thing I was really hoping to talk a little bit about was just like the overall vibe for this journey, and how we went about achieving that. I can certainly talk a bit about the music.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, okay, we'll start with that. Sure, why not? So with the drive, we tried to, with the new drive, because remember that the drive was the feature of the original First Drive, Glitchhikers First Drive. The music is meant to be meditative. It's supposed to leave a bit of space for the player to have whatever experience that they are kind of prepared or willing to have. That said, we wanted it to still be interesting to listen to when you weren't necessarily entertaining a conversation or trying to focus on something else. And so it's a very fine line to walk. The main difference between the original drive and this one musically is we just tried to get a few more genres mixed in there. So you will hear a lot more elements of jazz, like lo-fi, lounge music, while still hanging on to kind of that chopped up and shuffled audio aesthetic that was kind of what made it what it was in the original game. So that was kind of our approach for the music for the drive, for the highway. As for art, maybe Claris, if you wanted to touch a bit on some of the decisions.
Would love to. I mean, partly we very much wanted to keep what was working really well on the first drive, so that our highway mode still gave that good sense of the game. It still had that sense of identity, but we really wanted to expand the system that serves up these spaces, that serves up the amount of content, really expand that to where it rewards a lot more playthroughs. And then in addition to that, and this is not about the art, but is more about the music. But I really have enjoyed working on the music with you throughout this process. Is the sense of like giving in this mode, giving each song something of a focus for players to kind of fixate on. For some of our music that's a bit outside the genre of the first drive, we have more groove-centric, as Devin was saying, a bit more jazz-inspired. And so we've got like this kind of earworm bass line to kind of keep you hooked in that. But that's not always the case. Sometimes the songs in this mode are barely songs and kind of more musical assemblages or musical flotsam that's kind of just drifting through. And even in those moments, we still have this kind of vibe focus. And instead of it being a bit of music, it's a sample or sound or some sort of spectral presence in the mix that comes back again and again and kind of holds your focus, so that it both leaves lots of space around it and also it's constantly giving you something to hang on to.
Yeah. Well, listen, we have like a ton more to show you. We're going to explore 2 of the other modes in just a few minutes. But I think first what we would like to do is debut one of 2 music videos that we've made for some of the singles that we've released thus far from this game's huge soundtrack. Yeah, so this one is from The Highway Journey. And it should exemplify a lot of the musical ideas that we were talking about. So it's called Strange Passenger, and it is actually a collaboration between Claris and myself.
Yes, enjoy.
kind of surreal looking national park. There are hikers here that can engage you on a variety of topics. The topics of conversation are slightly different than they would be on the drive. More of a focus on nature and the natural world and beauty and how you see the world. You'll notice every journey has a different way of moving, which is very intentional. For instance, in the walk, you have free movement. You're no longer constrained to, a car driving along the highway. And so this is very intentional. We wanted to kind of reward exploration. So there's lots of like really cool spots that you can stumble into here. But we also wanted the vantage points that you find here to help kind of contextualize the overall world of Glitchhikers. So at different points in this video, you may even see like the train whiz by, or you might see like the highway or part of the airport terminal, or even like our little friendly neighborhood convenience store. These are all things that you can see from the path. And we are going to talk a bit more about the path later in the stream. But I thought we could maybe talk a little bit about the stop, since that's a place we're also visiting on a regular basis. Now, when we get there,
We should be just about to
I
arrive
think
there.
we're good.
Yeah, we're just finishing our kind of outro for the path mode the first time.
There are a ton of tiny little like nooks and crannies that you can get into in the path, and that's like very much something that we wanted to encourage everyone to kind of go out and explore those specific locations, and just cultivate a sense of wonder.
One thing we definitely wanted to encourage Devin to do was channel his inner Muzak to get us the vibes of the stop. Devin, would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Okay, so it's like I was trying to think of like what's the kind of music that you would hear in a convenience store, and I was like, well, okay, what other music do you usually hear in sort of semi-public places? And I got thinking about what music do you hear in an elevator? And suddenly I landed upon this idea of kind of a strange Kenny G-esque alter ego who plays a bunch of songs off of this old record player in the stop, and those songs that you hear, they do have a role to play in other journeys as well, but that is all I'm going to say about that right now.
One thing I would love to do, if you don't mind me cutting in for just a second, is talk about the character that we're talking to, and we've been talking to for the last few seconds. They're the clerk. They're kind of like the mascot of the game, the face of the game. Also kind of a character that you can check in with, who will ask you if you've had a particularly intense conversation with one of our hikers. How are you doing? And they're also happy to answer a lot of questions that you might have for the modes. You might have been a little disappointed that we didn't let you tell us about the terminal so soon. We'll be telling you more about that one. It's very exciting. And it might have something to do with the music stuff that Devin was talking about.
Dang, that
Indeed.
So I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna kick us over to the train because I think that's probably the next mode we should be checking out. This mode is actually called the Railway. And yeah, Devin, would you mind telling us a little bit about what it sets it apart from the other modes?
Yeah. So, for starters, the train is kind of more of a communal experience. It's a shared journey with a bunch of different passengers, whereas in a car, it's more private. It's you and the people that you trust enough to let in your car. So because of that, it demanded an kind of a very much different approach. And so early on, we decided that we wanted the train to kind of have, be more about a safer, like, we wanted it to feel like comfortable, safe, and a little bit like we want to have a bit of a folksy vibe to it, if you will. And I want to say like safer spaces, not actual safe spaces, because there are some difficult conversations that can be had on the train, and we wanted to ensure that the environment was conducive to having those conversations. Maybe, Clarice, you want to elaborate a bit on like what actually makes a train ride feel like a train ride?
For sure. Yeah, so we tried to capture some of these like small nooks and crannies that kind of typify a commuter train, or even honestly like a commuter bus. Like you get the little vestibule before the bathrooms at the back of the car, but also these little antechambers before you go from one car to another. Creating these little alcoves is fun. The ability to choose your seat and position yourself next to the window of your choosing and stuff gives you this sense of greater control, and is a big part of what I've always associated train journeys, setting them apart from other types of travel. And something that I also wanted to talk about is I'm really glad that you used that term safer space, Devin, because like something I really like about that is this notion that trying to make a space safe is an ongoing pursuit. And that's something that we definitely kept in mind when we were making this game, but also something that like we wanted to infuse a little bit into the conversation. So as Devin was saying, it's a bit more communal. There are multiple hikers kind of around you as you're moving through the space, and then you get to talk to them. But there's also a little bit more time to talk to each hiker. You get to talk to them multiple times, potentially, in a journey. You can see them later on in the train. And the hikers also give a little bit more space themselves to checking in with you, comparing notes about what your experience could be like versus theirs. They're willing to get a little bit more personal. And I think that all also contributes hugely into creating the kind of feel of the space. But there's one thing that's super important to this mode, and that's the music. Devin, can you tell us about how that magic works?
Well, Clarice, I certainly can. Just by default, right off the bat, we knew that the railway journey was going to require an atypical approach to music, because trains don't normally blare radio music throughout. But without any music, we felt it might feel a little empty. Almost right from the start of development, we were super into the idea of a busker of kind of lightly playing music in each train car, but we wanted to ensure that this did not get grating to the listener after a little while. So from that kind of blossomed this idea that in each car, the busker would be playing different instruments and different parts of the same song. And since it's a communal journey, the sound will bleed between cars whenever the vestibule door is open, and you can potentially hear multiple copies of the same busker harmonizing or playing along with themselves in this kind of disjointed multiple train car jam session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so like the intent was make the railway a safer and more comfortable space than the other journeys. And we decided, it's going to be more warm sounding, more organic. You'll notice there are virtually no synthesizers in this journey. It's all kind of standard, like guitar, drums, bass, piano, strings, that kind of stuff.
Now, Devin, I hate to contradict you live on air, but I think there is one synthesizer. Now, I'm to blame for this. I think I got a little upset that there wasn't a synthesizer at the train, so I was like, can we have a theremin maybe? Just a little baby synthesizer in there? And also,
Okay.
while I've got the stick for just a second, I also want to give a big shout out to Moot, who says they're incredibly hyped for this game. I'm so excited that you're hyped. We're really excited to share it with you.
That's awesome to see. It's like, I don't know. I guess, technically the theremin is an electronic instrument, so yes. there is one electronic instrument. But aside from that, yeah, it's a lot of instrumentation that is kind of just it should be very comfortable to like most people.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about this mode is the way that when you sit still or stand still, the music compounds over itself. So there's this sense of like you can hear always the car ahead of you and the car behind you mixing in, as Stefan said, with this kind of disjointed jam session. But if you just sit still and vibe, eventually the jam session just kind of happens around you. And it's really cool because what music happens depends on what the overall song is playing, and then also what instrument the busker in the car that you're currently in is playing. So if they're playing the Shakers, you're about to get an epic percussion solo.
We all know every epic percussion solo starts with Shakers.
It's gotta have it.
Scientific fact. Yeah. I guess the only other thing I would like to talk about in the train journey while we have a bit of time is just one more thing I want to hint at, perhaps. The really cool thing about, and actually this plays off of what you were saying about the theremin, Claris. Every time you start the journey, the train, there is a certain likelihood, based on other choices you've made in the game, that there will be different music playing. And the theremin only appears in one of those possible things. But if you are a theremin fan, then get excited.
Absolutely. Get some spooky theremin train vibes going on. Excuse me. I am aware of the time. We've got a lot more still to show you, believe it or not. So I want to kick us over to our second and final single and video. This one is called Fishy Peas. It's a song from The Path, so it should be showcasing the more pop music and sounds and sensibilities of that mode. And we'll be talking a lot more about that and how that influenced the music that we wrote when we come back from this little musical break. See you on the other side. Enjoy.
A lot to fall in love when you know it's just a feeling, not someday a sex above. My mind is a deceiver, no memories complete. Is this feeling something real or pharmaceutical deceit? So pop just one and say I love you, I'll pop one more and say I do. Now the chemistry between us, once hypothesized, comes through. You say you're no believer, but the evidence is clear. I can't get high on my own supply, so I'll wait for you right here. Right here. Right here. Right here.
Are we back? Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, I hope you enjoyed that other music video. And yeah, we'll be showing you the final mode we'll be exploring in this live stream, The Path. You already saw a little bit of it if you've been watching from the start. But one thing that I really want to highlight is you don't just have more control over how you move through this mode, you have control over the music in a way that you don't necessarily have in other modes. Now, Devin had just finished telling us about how you can control the music and what exactly is playing based on where you're sitting in the train. But for The Path, you have what we call your glitch pod. And you can choose between a whole bunch of different songs, as well as triggering the kind of voiceover. In this case, it is a kind of scientifically minded podcast. And listen to that and mix it with the music as you want. The game is going to give you an automatic playlist with the music and the podcast episodes shuffled in, but you have complete control over what you're listening to at any point in the mode, which I think makes this quite unique.
It's just, you have the freedom at any time to stop what you're listening to and just do something else. Which is different. Yeah, so maybe I'll just talk a little bit about the differences in the music. As you've heard with Fishy Peas, or if you're just tuning in, I'll explain it to you anyway. Big difference in a lot of different musical attributes. In the Highway, we have a lot less lyrics, a lot more of a generally mellow vibe. But in The Path, it's more like because music is the sole focus of the audio experience, because you're listening to the song or you're listening to the podcast. We wanted the music to be a lot more upbeat, convey a stronger sense of kind of this wonder and intrigue that we're trying to cultivate in The Path, and also focus a bit more on nature and the living world. And generally oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to cut in for just a second. Speaking of nature and the natural world, one other choice that you have is to pause the music at any time. Just take in the sounds around you. Every single mode has, I am biased, but I think pretty incredible ambience, and that was helped out significantly by the audio geniuses at A Shell in the Pit. But The Path especially has incredible, really rich, evolving nature noises. There's different ones in different parts of the path, and you get this opportunity to pause and take in the sounds of the space. And of course, as you've already seen, you go to some pretty wild spaces that aren't just a normal park. So definitely, there's some advantages to stopping and I was going to say smell the roses, but the audio version of that.
Hear the roses.
Hear the roses.
I don't know what roses sound like, but I'm sure it's very pleasant. Hear the mushrooms. Just getting back to the music a little bit there. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and by the way, I absolutely recommend that you shut off, at risk of telling people to stop listening to music that I wrote. You should absolutely, at various times in The Path, shut off the music and just chill, because it's great. The biggest difference musically is that a lot of the songs from The Path have lyrics, because we have a bit more space to do that, and trying to get people to inhabit the present. We have a tendency to, when we hear lyrics, focus on them. So, but
I don't know if it's apparent to everyone listening, but Devin has put so much thought into this, and as kind of creative director, I definitely got to collaborate with him on the music, but also it was so much of a joy just to talk to him about this stuff so much. to talk about the impacts that different types of music, that lyrics or not lyrics, has on the listener's kind of presence of mind, and really be doing that with intention in each mode. It was just put you on the spot here, but it was really great working with you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, because sometimes when I get rambling about things like that, I get that glazed expression. But yeah, I what can I say? I live, breathe, eat, drink, and sleep music. So, speaking of music things, did you want to take an opportunity here, Clarice, and maybe explain to people what the heck they have been looking at with these music videos?
Oh, I would love to. All right, so tech and music tech and the kind of tech side of music is a big thing for us in Glitchhikers. During the pandemic, I have been banging my head personally on trying to understand electronic music production, electronic instruments, synthesizers, and stuff like that. I've been working on that a little bit before the pandemic, but being locked in my house with my synths really helped give me focus, surprisingly. And one of my weird little synth children is this friend here called the OPZ. And in addition to writing some of the songs from the game on it, it also has the ability to control and sequence visuals through Unity. So we used the actual assets from the game and then rigged them up with extra special animations for like playing guitars and dancing around and stuff, and then have it all controlled with the synthesizer. And the coolest thing is that it's not quite ready yet, but soon we will be releasing this for everyone to play with. Anyone who has not only just this synthesizer, but any sort of MIDI control and a computer will be able to enjoy messing around with it.
And when Clarice says "we," she really means we. Putting these videos together was like very much a collective effort from all of the folks at Silverstring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge shout outs to everyone involved. Bill, our tech artist, who just used his massive brain to figure out how all this works. Shirley, our animator, who did all the animations. Lucas, my business partner, who was kind enough to stitch the footage together in Premiere Pro. Devin, thank you so much for writing all this wonderful music.
No problem. Yeah. No problem at all.
No sweat.
No sweat.
This is still a little awkward segue, but still, like, one of the things that we didn't talk about with the music in this mode is the heightened presence of percussion and the higher BPM and the sense of, like, I want to say giving the more of a driving feel or driving rhythm, but not in fact driving, because this is the walking mode and not the driving mode. But we wanted to give that propelling sense of your feet are falling on the floor beat, and that sense of Devin, can you speak a little bit more to how we achieved that and some of the musical stuff that's going on behind that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think there are a lot of 4 on the floor tracks, and definitely rhythmically it's a lot more complex. Higher BPMs and like a higher tempo, faster tempo was definitely a consideration. Though not every walk song is really fast. Because after a certain tempo, it's no longer a walking pace; it's a light jog. And using percussion and transients again, this is all trying to contribute to this idea that we're living in the moment, and that everything is very kind of a sense of like a lot of things in nature are very ephemeral. And so I thought the music should also be kind of ephemeral in that sense. So we use a lot of, like I said earlier, transients, kick drums, sharper noises, harsher sounding synthesizers, like we'd call it like maybe a popcorn synth would be something that we would use in the path specifically. And yeah, lyrics that are there, first of all, unlike other journeys, but also lyrics that are kind of a little bit more evocative. Some of the lyrics that I wrote for this game, I just, like, 2 years ago, I could not have pictured myself writing that as a lyric. Like, I'm just very far out of my comfort zone. In fact, there is a song that is the B-side to Fishy Peas called Phytokinesis, in which I claim to have control of plants with my mind in the lyrics.
I love that song so much. Y'all should go on Bandcamp and check it out. It's really good. I may have encouraged Devin to make, like, Foley type noises as if his character is controlling plants to then record and put into the music so that it's even wilder. And it's a trip. I love it.
Those who say, "What the heck am I listening to?" I will say, COVID has been a very long. It's been
Sweet sounds of isolation.
It's been a long 2 years. Yeah.
One other thing I would love to talk to you about, Devin, is Strange Passenger, because it is one that we both worked on, and it's for specifically, not all of our songs followed this. Sometimes I would come with a bit of a melody, like a bass line, or even kind of a really rough track and be like, hey, what can we do with this? But other times, and this was always a real delight for me, I would just be messing with my synths, and I'd be like, gee, I made a whole bunch of really weird noises. I've never heard noises like this. I wonder if Devin's heard noises like this. Save, send, like, hey Devin, I don't know if you can do anything with this, but here's some weird noises. It's like, it's 5 minutes of just sets going blort, blort, bleep, blah, blah. And I mean, he was able to turn that, not even music, like just sounds into Strange Passengers, and really take those sounds and focus on them and turn them into this kind of meditative focus that holds everything together.
I'm not going to try and attribute this quote because I don't remember who said it, but it's something like, writing is easy, all you have to do is cross out the wrong words. I'm not going to say that the stuff that was sent to me was wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, it's you were experimenting for, like, not the first time, but like seriously experimenting with a lot of electronic music for the first time, and you were just kind of like, hey Devin, I don't know if this is anything, can it be? And it's like, that's my job, to find random things and be like, can this be a thing? Okay, and then I make a thing. So like, it was actually like, it was a great experience for myself as well, because anytime somebody else is anytime you're working with literally any other creative person on a creative endeavor, they're offering something, they're bringing something to the table that you could not have brought yourself. And so it's just been an absolute pleasure that we're able to speak kind of the same musical language, and we've been able to make those connections and work on some of these songs like we have, because that doesn't always come easily.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I just noticed that we walked past a couple times one of our park maps.
Oh, yeah.
Used it. It's a very interesting way of navigating the space. You just stare at it and stare at the dot, and after a while you blink, and if you walk away from the map, you might notice that you've moved in space and maybe even in time.
While we're talking about strange things in the park, do we want to talk a little bit about the statue, like the some of the arcs?
Absolutely, yes. So speaking of the ambience, and I think this is honestly my absolute favorite feature, or maybe my second favorite feature, in the whole path, and that is, there is this sculpture with a bunch of lights around it. It's kind of like a top, and it catches the wind, so you can hear the wind whip up, and then it'll start to turn and groan and creak and build up momentum and then slow down, and you just hear this soundscape echoing through the sculpture part of the path that we've been kind of wandering through in the last little bit. And it's really cool. So if there's any one single spot that like you should go and turn off your glitch pod, like go to the sculpture part, turn off your glitch pod, and see what happens.
I'm looking at the time here. We do have a bit more time.
A little bit more time.
Yeah. Do we? What are we allowed to talk about with
Terminal?
the terminal? What can we tell folks?
I mean,
in advance of our upcoming stream on the terminal specifically, which will be on Saturday. Yes, Saturday.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely tell you that like it takes musical control in a different direction, and a really interesting and eyebrow-raising direction. Its relationship to music is very different than the other modes. I think we can also talk about it being more frenetic, more kinetic. It unlike the other modes, which really invite you to slow down, this mode in a lot of ways gives you the opportunity to speed up, which might seem a little bit un-Glitchhikers, but I think we make it work. And if you're curious, or maybe you're thinking, this seems really cool, but a little bit too slow for me, then you should definitely check out Saturday, our stream, where we will unveil that mode for the first time, because I think it might surprise you.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing, which is that we talked about, you have, as a player on the path journey, you have a lot more direct control over the music that you're listening to. You absolutely have more direct control over the music that you were listening to in the terminal as well, but not in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
No, I think that's a good place to leave it at. I guess my last question is, where can we find your music, Devin?
Oh, that's a great question, Claris. Right now, you can get any of the singles. There are 3 singles that have been released. They are available on my Bandcamp. There will be links in our socials to the location that it can be purchased. So feel free. There is a ton more music. I don't know if I'm allowed to say how much, but there is a lot.
Well over 4 hours. We can say that.
Yeah.
Like, no problem. It blows 4 hours behind. Like, goodbye.
Yeah. And it's almost a guarantee that in any playthrough, you're probably going to hear something that you haven't heard before.
Yeah. I will just say, like, can't quite talk about it yet, but some of our guest artists too, I'm so excited about. Like, just there's so
excited.
much music. So much music in this game. Like, it's not just because I was working on it, but like for the last year, I've pretty much just been listening to music from the game in one capacity or other, and I'm okay with that. It's been pretty great, actually. Like, has not gotten old yet.
Whew, that's good.
Now, we've got just a couple of moments left, but I want to remind everyone who's in the chat that you can ask questions and we will answer them. In fact, if you ask a question now, we will answer it immediately, as we don't have anything else to speak to. We've just got you to speak to, dear audience. And while we wait to see if any of those things come through, Devin, what is a musician or artist that inspired you? You know, either directly for Glitchhikers or just at the same time, contemporaneously.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some of the stuff I've been listening to while I've been writing the Glitchhikers music. I mentioned this to you earlier, Claris, actually, when we were talking about this. But I've listened to genres that I didn't really know about. Everything from vaporwave and that type of electronica, all the way over to like Japanoise, if you are familiar with that genre of noise music. Just trying to get inspiration for some of the weird and wonderful things that ended up being in the Glitchhikers soundtrack. I mean, I can name specific artists if we want to. I'd love to gab about some of those folks while we've got a little bit of time here. certainly for the path journey, because we wanted it to be more upbeat, not frantic per se, but driving. And we wanted it to have a lot more transients and kind of be a little bit more. I don't want to say aggressive, but like present. We'll say present. Artists like Blank Banshee. What else? Trying to think of who else I was listening to.
I can fire one off there. That's been inspiring me.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Stereo Lab is a band I've listened to for a long time, and one thing I've always liked about them is that they kind of use classic analog synths, but also will use like brass instruments or whatever. Like they'll use whatever instrument is called for. So they've got this very eclectic sonic palette. But then they also do this thing that I've discovered as I've started to write music. I've realized I really love doing this too, and that is that they like take not one, not two, but 3 songs and put them in one. And they'll like have just this weird drum solo mix up that just bleeds immediately into a totally different groove. And then there's a weird little outro, and then boom, we're into another groove. And there's that sense of falling down this infinite musical pit I love. And I was trying to channel a little bit of that when I was writing some of the music.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few playlists. 2814.
Yes.
Specifically as inspiration for a lot of the stuff that you will hear in the terminal, but also smatterings around other journeys as well.
Awesome.
Anyway, I think we're just about out of time here.
We're just about out of time, at least on the main page of Steam. But thank you all for joining us so much. It's been lovely to have you. Please check out the demo. Please wishlist the game. Follow Devin's Bandcamp. Keep watching us for Music Mondays. We've got so much more music content coming out for you soon. And yeah, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll go out on Fishy Peas one more time.
Oh, yeah.
A lot to fall in love when you know it's just a feeling, not someday a sex above. My mind is a deceiver, no memories complete. Is this feeling something real or pharmaceutical deceit? So pop just one and say